First we'll be sewing the bust dart. You have to put the two notches together, and then you have to stitch from here. First you back stitch, and you stitch until this point, and then you kind of stitch off the fabric. So I've already done this one. So I started here and I got off at the basting thread. So I'll be putting two little knots in this. Then we're gonna press it, and we're gonna press the dart downwards, so like this. When you're done sewing the darts, don't cut the thread straight after, but leave some length on it so you can tie it up with two small knots or three, and then you can cut the thread. Then we need to prepare the shoulder straps. So I have interfaced them both, so this is already the finished one, and then I have pinned the side seams together and I stitched at 1.5 centimeters. Then I turned it inside out and I flattened it with the iron. Here you can see the seam, so this is obviously the inside, and then it's ready to pin to the front and then to the back. So I have finished the front. I have sewn the bust darts, I pressed them downwards and I overlocked the side seams. So now we can attach the shoulder straps. So it's important that you align them with the shoulders of the front and you put them in the middle. So you'll have 1.5 centimeters on each side, and then you pin them in place. And then you do the same one for the other shoulder strap. Again, you put it in the middle. You can measure it at 1.5 from each side, which is the seam allowance. And then we will attach the shoulder straps by stitching the 2 or 3 layers together. So I've attached the shoulder straps by stitching at 1 centimeter from the edge. Now we're gonna do the same thing for the back. So for the back, the only preparation I needed was to overlock the side seams. So they're already attached. Of course, you have to see that you pin the right strap to the right side. So again, you put it in the middle, so you still have 1.5 centimeter seam allowance on each side. And again, we will be stitching them at 1 centimeter from the edge to attach the shoulder straps, and then it will look something like this. Next, we will be stitching the side seams of the front and back. So we put them right sides together and we pin them all the way down, and then we'll stitch and press open. So now we've finished the front and back. We've sewn the side seam, well, overlock it first, sewn it, and then pressed it open. So now we're going to make the facing. So the facing exists of 2 pieces, the front and the back. They're both quite similar, so I have pinned, I've put a little pin in the front, so I know directly which one it is. I have overlocked the side seams and the bottom seam of the facings. And now I'm gonna pin and stitch the side seams together, and I'm gonna press them open. Now we're going to attach the facing to the bodice. So this is probably the most tricky part of this pattern. So you need to turn the bodice inside out, and you have to make sure that the straps are kind of facing downwards inside the bodice. Then we're gonna attach the facing. Can't attach the facing in one go. You will first have to do the front and then the back. So I'm going to start with the front, and you pin it from one armhole over the shoulder and all along the neckline, right up until the next armhole. I have pinned the front facing to the front. I started in the side seam, went all around the armhole, shoulder and the neckline up until the other side seam. You will have noticed now why you have to do the 2 goes, because of the straps. They're too short, they pull. You can't pin immediately the back facing as well. When you sew the front facing and the front, make sure you get the nice V neckline. You can use a basting thread or piece of chalk to indicate the V. Also pay attention when you make the corner here that you don't stitch your strap along in the side seam. So you have to go up until 1.5 of the edge, and then you turn the fabric on your machine and you stitch along. So always feel when you're stitching that the side of the strap does not get caught in the neckline or the armhole stitching. I've now stitched the front facing to the front. I've started at the side seam. You have to start in the side seam. You can't start any further than this because you can't put the fabric right. And I went all the way around. You can already turn a little bit to see if you get the corners right. And then we're going to continue with the back facing. To be able to pin the back facing to the back, we have to pull the straps a bit so we can more easily reach the back bodice. And then again, we're going to be pinning and stitching the armholes, shoulder seams, and the neckline, one side seam all the way to the other. When you're stitching the back facing to the back, you will notice that the fabric also pulls, so try to do it in parts as you did with the pinning. First the armhole, then the shoulder seam, the neckline, etc. Before you start cutting the corners to reduce the bulk, you can already pull the straps through to see if you're happy with how you stitch them. You can always correct if necessary before you start cutting. So now we're gonna cut the corners and the V necklines. So the corners, kind of snip it off like this. Make sure you're not cutting into your stitching, which you really need. The V neckline as well, I first cut like a big cut just until the V. I also like to give some extra cuts. And then you always have to turn it to see if you've cut enough of the seam allowance so it doesn't pull the fabric. We also give a couple of snips in the rounded seam of the armhole because that also tends to pull. So I'm going to do this for the other side as well, and then I'm going to turn it around. I have overlocked the neckline and the armholes because you got so many snips and cuts in the seam allowance. It won't be the neatest finish. You can either kind of overlock along the spaces in between, or you can just leave them open depending on your fabric. If you want a really neat finish, I think you might have to work with the eyes. So now I'm gonna turn it to the right side, iron it, and then we're gonna understitch the neckline and armhole. You won't be able to go around all the way, so you just have to go as far as you can. By understitching, we attach the facing to the seam allowances, so you will not see it on the good side. You won't be able to go very far, just at the V neckline and the armholes. You just go as far as you can. It will be attached a lot better, even so. Okay, so now we finished the bodice. We're gonna attach it to the skirt. To attach the bodice to the skirt, you have to turn the skirt inside out and slide the bodice in, or do it the other way around. I have it with the skirt inside out. So I'm gonna slide my bodice in and I'm gonna pin all around. First, I'm gonna stitch at 2.5 centimeters from the edge all the way around. And then I'm going to give a second stitching at 1 centimeter from the edge to create the casing. And I'm going to leave an opening of about 2 or 3 centimeters so I can pull the elastic through. So now I'll pull the elastic through the casing with a safety pin. As for the length of the elastic, we give some indications in the instructions, but it's always safe to kind of try it on yourself before you cut it off, so you're sure you have the correct length. So now I will go all the way around, and then I will attach the ends and close the opening and overlock the waist seam. So make sure that when you pull it through that the end of the elastic doesn't disappear in the casing, because then you will have to start over again. Also make sure when you attach the ends that the elastic didn't turn in the casing somewhere. So I will always attach it first so the end doesn't escape in the casing, and then I will kind of feel around if the elastic is right in all places. And it does feel like that, so I will pull it out a bit more. Then again, make sure you put them together the right way. So you put one on top of the other, and then we will stitch it and secure it in place. Stitch a lot, so it's well secured. I have attached the ends of the elastic, and I closed my opening and I overlocked the waist seam all around. So now this is ready. So now we just have to turn it inside out. And our dress is nearly ready. So we just have to hem the dress. You can either overlock the unfinished hem, press it at 3 centimeters to the wrong side and sew it by hand, or you can press 1.5 centimeters and then do another press of 1.5 and stitch all around. I will be doing this last option. And then all that's left is to give the dress a nice press and you're all ready.